What's up, y'all? So I want to talk a little bit today about a principle that we try and uphold on this farm that is really essential to us, and it's the principle of no bare soil. Basically, mulching. And I'd love to just talk about the ways that we mulch on the farm, and how mulching is just a really easy thing that we can do on really any scale, whether on a large farm, small farm, backyard garden, um, windowsill garden, uh, whatever. If you mulch, you can really improve your system in a very easy way that will be beneficial to your plants and to your ecosystem. So before I talk about that, I'd also like to just say that if you know me, you know that I care about social justice. I have a background in it. It's what I got my degree in, social and environmental justice work. And it was really the launching pad for me to enter into farming and become a farmer, um, teach on farming and creation care work and regenerative agriculture. To me, the two go hand in hand. But it's also not lost on me that that's not abundantly clear to most people, and um, can honestly seem pretty irrelevant in a lot of ways, and is. But I'm passionate about it. It's in a lot of ways what I feel called to do in this world. And so, one of the ways in which I'm going to try and further that discussion is by just doing more of these videos and talking about principles that we enact as growers and gardeners and farmers in the world, and then how those principles and those natural patterns that we learn from nature, what they might have to say about uh, social justice. So I'll do that today. We will talk about mulching, and then we'll talk about what mulching might have to say about social justice. But before we get there, let's just talk about social justice for a minute. I mean, I love, for me, a really base, stripped down definition of social justice that I've adopted is that it is making right decisions based on right relatedness. And how if we're not properly related to each other and to the world around us, we're going to have a really hard time um, enacting justice, and we're going to have a really hard time making right decisions in our communities and in our society and in our world. So with that said, let's just talk about mulching for a minute. Nature doesn't do bare soil. I learned that about 10 years ago, and when I first heard it, it kind of bounced off me, one ear out the other, right? But Brittany and I, being nature lovers that we are, we spend a lot of time outside, hiking, camping, just as a lot of time. And so over the years, as we've done that, I've just really learned and observed that's really true. Nature doesn't really do bare soil in most instances. The next time you're on a hike, the next time you're in the woods, just take a minute and look around you. Other than the beaten path that you're on, what you'll really see time and time again is just this thick layer of mulch, through the leaves that season after season drop, and the trees that fall and decay, and there's just an abundance of micro life taking place on the forest floor, and really a thick layer of mulch. You don't see that exposed dirt, and so it's really a cool thing to kind of observe and learn over time. Is really true. Nature doesn't do bare soil. And so how do we as a farm, or maybe you in your gardens or your farms, uh, enact that principle of mimicking that natural pattern that we see in nature of no bare soil? Mulching. We do it here in two main ways. The first is through landscape fabric. We use that on our paths. As you can see behind me, this is our okra beds, and we have a mulch in the beds and landscape fabric in our paths. The fabric does two main things for us. It holds the soil in place, um, Whereas otherwise, every time it would rain, that would wash away our topsoil, which has been a huge issue in this country, is that we've lost our topsoil at alarming rates. Um, so just by putting that fabric in, the water runs on top, and the fabric holds the soil in place. The second thing, and really the big thing it does for us, is that it suppresses invasive grasses that would come in and choke out our plants. Um, and so, weed suppression and holding the soil in place is a great way that you can use landscape fabric to mimic the principle of no bare soil. The reason we don't use fabric in our beds is because that's where we want the most fertility. That's where we're trying to build fertility. That's where we're trying to build topsoil, and that is rich and that has that micro life to grow good food. So we use natural mulches such as straw or leaf. As you can see behind me, we have a lot of woods on this farm, so every fall we get an abundance of leaves. We'll use that deep into the summer, and we get to this point, we run out of leaves. Straw mulch is another great material to use. It does two things that the landscape fabric doesn't. The first is it retains moisture, which is huge for us on this farm. You see an irrigation system behind me overhead that we use on this. We'll use it up front to establish the plants, but once they get established and we can come in and mulch around them, when it rains like it did here this week pretty heavily for a few days, if we didn't have mulch there, what you'd find is that a day or two later, that moisture is completely gone. It's either washed away or just evaporated, and there you are having to hand water your plants again. But if you have a mulch there, once you get just below those top inch or two, you find that it holds that moisture in place. And it won't just hold it for a day or two. Often it'll hold it for weeks at a time. And so where other people are just losing that moisture immediately and having to constantly input irrigation system onto their crops or hand water in your front or backyard, by mulching, you can maybe not eliminate, but really limit the amount of water that you have to use because it's retaining that moisture. And then the second, as I said, it's breaking down over time and turning into that organic material that we want. It's building topsoil by heavily mulching that we will be able to grow year after year after year. So that's why we mulch. So that's how we mimic the natural pattern, the natural principle of no bare soil. And I love it because it's just so scalable. Like I said, I can do it here. I can do it in large large gardens or farms, but you can also do it very easily in your backyard or in your front yard or in your or in your growing pots at home. What does that have to do with social justice? Great question. And it really is a deep question. I think could spend a lot of time going into systems and the difference between learning from the natural world and mimicking the natural world, and what's the opposite of that? I think it is ignoring the natural world, and instead of mimicking natural patterns, creating our own systems that are solely put in place to benefit us. And I think that speaks into, very simply, the moment of time that we are experiencing in this country today, where racial justice is at the forefront of our consciousness, is at the forefront of our discussions, and we're talking about it. And I think that's beautiful. I think it's important. I think it's long overdue. What has brought on that discussion is not beautiful. It is the horrific reality of police brutality that black and brown people in this country have been experiencing since its conception. And to, why it's taken this long, why it's taken this for us to really, as a society, be having this discussion, for white people to tune in. That's a different discussion, but today the reality is we're there, and I think the important thing that we can do right now is just talk about talk about it, and hopefully deal with it, and tear down the systemic, structural systems that we've created on the backs of indigenous people and on the backs of black and brown people, and to build a new system that is more just. But acknowledging it is step one, right? I think we tend to whitewash our history, and um, and yes, I'm told by a lot of friends and people of mine we've made progress in it. Sure, we have made progress in this society, but not nearly enough, obviously. And and if we can't deal with the root cause of building systems, building a nation, first by wiping out indigenous cultures and Native Americans that were here before us, and then literally building that economy and that society that we have today by slavery, and if we can't acknowledge that is deep within the structure of our society, and that is a problem, then we're going to have a really hard time enacting justice, aren't we? And I think we're seeing that, the fruits of that today. Again, I don't have any grandiose ideas that nature's, observing nature and mimicking natural patterns, solve everything, right? But I do think nature has some things to say in this realm. We came in and we destroyed and we exploited. Ironically, in the name of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, in the name of freedom and justice for us, we built that freedom and justice by exploiting and destroying indigenous people and enslaving black and brown people in this country. That is the opposite of mimicking natural patterns. That is the opposite of coming in and saying, wow, what can I learn from the ecosystem that I am a part of? It is the opposite, truly, if we're going to get spiritual, right? It's the opposite of bearing the image of God. I've seen a lot out there recently about, and it is good, campaigns talking about how we are all created equal and we all bear the image of the Creator. That is a beautiful message. But let me ask this. If we are operating out of a system that is inherently racist and that was built on the backs of black and brown people, and that exploited and completely destroyed an entire culture of Native Americans, what image are we bearing? What image is our system bearing? Right? It's one thing to say, yeah, we're all created equal. You're beautiful, I'm beautiful, we all are image bearers of God. But the systems we're living in every single day are bearing out a different image, right? An image that says, oh, actually, I'm God, and if I think I'm God and I'm separate from nature and I'm separate from you, I'm better than you, I'm going to create a system that benefits me at not only other human beings' expense, but at the natural world's expense as well. And that's what we've done. That's what we've created in this country. Exploitative economic systems, exploitative societal systems. And we are, I believe, bearing the fruit of it now by having criminal justice systems that really don't know how to enact justice. Because at their root, they're bearing the fruit of a rotten tree. And so it's hard work, it's messy work to uproot that tree, to acknowledge what that tree is rotten, and to plant a new tree. And that's going to take a mindset, that's going to take a humility, that's going to take a conversation like we've never had before. And yet, I believe we're here. I believe we're there as a country. And nature's good word, if you will, on it today, on it as we think about mulching our okra plants and our tomatoes and our peppers, is the opposite of exploiting and destroying is observing and interacting. The opposite of you know, yeah, the opposite of farming in a way that literally means in another 100 years we won't be able to grow food and sustain ourselves anymore. Is mimicking natural patterns. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as knowing and acknowledging we are not God, but we are a part of this world, and that with every action we take, we either have a positive impact or a negative impact on those around us. And whose image are we bearing with those decisions, with those systems that we built? So anyway, tailed off there a little bit at the end, but I hope that is a word that might be good for someone out there. And give me your feedback. Let me know what you think about the discussion. Let me know if you have any questions on what kind of mulch material you might need to use in your front yard or in your the things that you've got going on. And let's continue to fight the good fight. What I do is nothing compared to those of you out on the front lines right now, and so I'm grateful for you. My prayer is that Just Plant the Seed can be a resource for you, a safe haven for you along the way. Until next time, guys. Bye.